flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
That's the plan. I don't feel like I'm getting worse. I don't feel like I'm, headed in the wrong direction. I feel like I'm headed in the right direction to get myself back to where I need to be at. But, it's some days, you have those days, we just play the game. So, just trying to, like I said, work myself back to being 100% so I can help us win games.
Dalvin Cook talking about playing Sunday against the Detroit Lions. Welcome into Mackey and Judd. And if you're watching us on YouTube, which of course we always appreciate, you're going to say to yourself, hold on, it's Mackey and Judd. Where's Mackey? It's Declan and Judd. Mm-hmm. Where's Mackey? He's traveling. He's traveling.
Yeah. This is my Alexander Madison performance right now, sitting in for the starting Dalvin Cook.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And this gives us more screen so that if you are watching on YouTube, Coach Zim is joining us, at least the bobblehead Coach Zim. All right. So Vikings and Lions on Sunday. As I said, that was Dalvin Cook talking about his expectation that he is going to play in this game after he played against Cleveland, was limited. In fact, he tweaked his injury, his ankle, and still came back and tried to play after that. But he did miss some significant time. And Declan, so if you look at what Dalvin Cook said, he said what we just heard, which is, I'm plan is to play through it. I'm not going to make it worse, blah, 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 blah. And then you look at the injury report, and this is not like a sound the alarm issue, but the injury report from day one of practice as the Vikings start to prepare for Detroit is Dalvin Cook DNP, did not practice. Now, is that unusual for a running back who's hurt? No, it's not. But let me run this idea by you. Given how the Vikings played against Seattle 2 weeks ago, given that the more I look into the Detroit Lions injury problems, their 0-4 start, the fact that you would have to take them incredibly lightly coming off a tough loss to lose to them. And here's the third thing. Your guy, Alexander Madison against Seattle, as far as I could tell, looked pretty good, played a big role. Right? I am advocating right now not playing Dalvin Cook in this game and giving that ankle another week off. And in fact, I would like him to play against Carolina before the bye, which is going to be the following game. And then the following week after that, the Vikings are off. But, the more I think about this too, Dalvin Cook is who he is, which is a tremendously gifted back. He's a great player. He can catch, he can block, he can do all of those things. But we knew that when he signed that extension, the one thing is Dalvin Cook is not going to play, previously 16 games, now 17. And if you try and play Cook hurt, like with a lot of guys at that position, you're sort of spinning your wheels. You're potentially going to make things worse, because I'm not buying what he was selling yesterday.
Right.
Because he hobbled off the field against the Browns, and he essentially told them in the fourth quarter when things were dire, I can play again. So I'm not buying this whole thing of, it's fine, I'm not going to make it worse. I don't think there's a compelling reason to have him play against the Lions at home on Sunday, given what your offense knows it can do, especially against a team like Detroit, with Madison as his replacement for that game.
I get why you would want your best players available. You want to play your best players. But Dalvin Cook literally said, I'm not 100%. And keep in mind, it's an ankle. Like, he's an explosive player. Now, I'm no doctor. I just, rely on my sister, who's the medical doctor, to tell me when I'm being a dummy and need to go to the hospital and take proper precautions and stop drinking so much and take care of yourself. That's how I go about things. But thankfully, I'm not Dalvin Cook. And when I'm not 100%, it's a completely different story. But if you're not 100% with that ankle injury, there's no point to play. And it's Detroit, man. And to quote a very famous play-by-play announcer, this is Detroit. This is not a big deal. This is not Detroit, but this is Detroit.
That was his line. But you're
right. But this is Detroit. It's a winless bad team. Yes. And look, the Panthers game in Carolina, potentially a very big game too. Most likely I shouldn't say potentially, is a big game going into the bye week. But Alexander Madison showed you against Seattle, who isn't also a great team, but clearly better than the Lions. I mean, that's clear. And Madison performed fantastic in that game. So I really don't understand why you wouldn't just say, hey, Dalvin, we get it. We know you want to play. We saw you play against Cleveland. You weren't your normal self. And Alexander Mattison, when he played against Seattle, I mean, he was great. He had over 30-plus touches. He had 160 all-purpose yards. I mean, they still fed him the rock 26 times on the ground and still got involved in the passing game. This is something that I've been preaching even since last season, to get Mattison more involved. You know, if you look at his splits, they're nearly identical from his rookie year to his sophomore year in 2019, 2020. But it felt like, at least to me, Judd, that in 2019, he was a more impactful player. I feel like he had more of an impact in 2019 than he did in 2020. And I want to see if that guy is still there. You know, and the Vikings, too, by the way, post Adrian Peterson, have done a pretty good job at kind of using all of their backs. You know, when Latavius Murray and Jerick McKinnon were here, they had a nice little split there. And Dalvin Cook, by the way, again, is a better running back than Latavius Murray, than Jerick McKinnon, than Alexander Mattison. No one's denying that. But he has a lingering injury. You're going against a really bad team. I don't really see any point for him to be rushing to be getting, 25 or even on a pitch count. What would be the point of even having him? Let's say they came in and said, all right, you're not 100%, but on Sunday, Dalvin is going to have a pitch count. I know Zimmer won't even tell you today's Thursday, but let's say they would have done that.
Sure.
And I would still say, well, then if he's not a full go, there's no point to get him out for 15 snaps. Just let him rest. Let Alexander Mattison take the bulk of that off his hands, and that Vikings offense can still be effective.
And he clearly had a pitch count last week or last Sunday against Cleveland, and he still tweaked it, because you're right. It's an ankle. Like this is not a non-tweakable thing. Like this is not man, I hope I go out there and I don't tweak it. It's an ankle. You're cutting, you're turning. And aside from maybe Dalvin Cook's first carry against the Browns on Sunday, Dex, go back and watch. The explosiveness is not there. Like it's not there. And he was on a pitch count. Now they went under the pitch count because I think it was in the third quarter he had to come out, but they definitely didn't get to what the pitch count was going to be. But Madison was going to be used more. The other thing with Cook that we just have to accept, and I think this starts not with us, but the Vikings, and this is what we talked about when he signed. This is him. And so, like, to ever think, oh, okay, he's going to go out there and we're going to, with a sprained ankle, play him injured, and he's still going to be even a semblance of Dalvin Cook, is silliness. The second he signed that contract, if you're the team, you have to accept he's going to miss probably, if we're lucky, 2 to 3 games per year. And there's going to be maybe 3 or 4 games besides that, Declan. And this is the key thing, where we're going to have to accept that he is either on a pitch count, or we're going to have to think maybe he can't play. And that was the caution, the word of warning from all of us when he signed that contract. I think we all said this. You, Phil, me. We all said he's a marvelous player. This has nothing to do with Dalvin bashing. Like, he's not that good. But one, he plays a position that, unfortunately for him, is disposable. And two, more importantly, when you signed Dalvin to that second contract, it was like buying a product that comes in a box with the warning on it. Caution. Yeah. This player will
disclaimer.
This warning, this player will miss 3 games, and in 3 to 4 more, he might not play. And you don't know when, but you know it's coming. And so this notion that, well, we're going to throw him out there because we signed him, that's not the best use of Dalvin Cook, is to get him. And I'm not saying he's ever going to be 100% again for the duration of the 2021 season. But the best use is to get him as close as possible, because I think we saw the Dalvin Cook who is gutsy. He'll try and play. I think we saw the guy that tries to push through an injury on Sunday, and it's not really a great option. Like, I would far prefer to have him now sit against Detroit and come back healthier against Carolina than be like, we need to have him. So I actually think this is more of an acceptance from the people in Egan than anything of what they have. And if they didn't know that, like, if they can't accept that, that's on them. That's not on Dalvin. Dalvin, an 85 to 100% Dalvin Cook is worth every penny probably of that contract. But you're never going to get that. And you knew that. So this is not a guy that you draft and you're like, oh, we thought he'd stay healthy in the pros. He didn't. So it's somewhat frustrating to see the Vikings sort of botch this.
Yeah.
And we're both right. Like, Detroit is the game to say, dude, we're not going to have you tough this one out. We've got guys that can beat Detroit. We need you for games that are against tougher teams. And here's the other, I think, key point. With or without Dalvin Cook, if you can't beat Detroit, you're lost anyway.
Yeah.
Like it's not like who's going to get, if they lose 17-14, right? Who's going to get to the end of that game and be like, oh, well, if Dalvin Cook had played, it's 24-7, you know?
Yeah. I don't think there's really a whole lot of point to be risking an injury here. And if the Vikings were 0-4, maybe my tune's a little different, because not like they literally have to win, even though that Lions team isn't good, because, I mean, these next two games are determining if Mike Zimmer is going to be sticking around this season. I mean, unfortunately, it is. And if that was the case and they were winless, I could understand the reason for Dalvin's sake and for the team's sake to say Dalvin Cook is going to play because we need Dalvin Cook. We're winless on the season. We need this win. Our coach is literally about to be fired if we don't. I can see it from that angle. But with the Lions being the Lions, and Carolina's going to be a good team next week too, and then you get the bye. I mean, if Alexander Mattison also performs to what he did against Seattle, I mean, you could even make a case Dalvin Cook could have 3 weeks off. You come out of the bye and he's healthy and back and ready to go. And yes, there is always the disclaimer of an injury because he's battled nagging injuries since he got drafted here to Minnesota. But I don't think there's a whole lot of point to be rushing him against a lowly team like the Lions, who aren't very good. And in that Seattle game with Madison, it's not like Madison was being the dynamic version of Dalvin Cook. He was just Alexander Madison. They got him involved in screen games. It seemed like they ran like 10 or 15 screen plays. I know I'm exaggerating, but he already has 8 catches on the season. They're using him out of the as a receiver more. That's what you should be doing. And I think against the Lions, it's not like you have to get super cute. They're the Lions. Clint Kubiak has looked mostly effective as an offensive coordinator through the first 3 or 4 games. So you don't have to get super cute if you're Clint Kubiak. Stick to that same script. I mean, still hand off the ball 20 to 25 times to him, because that's what this offense runs through. But also get creative with screenplays, get creative with stuff like that, and that part's easy to do.
Put the ball in Kirk's hands. Put the ball in Kirk's hands.
Yeah.
Seattle, he was great. He was fantastic. And you're right. The Detroit Lions, way worse than the Seahawks, who aren't good, or I don't at least think, and defensively, they're not good, right? So, yeah, put the ball on Sunday in Kirk's hands. And Madison's touches in the game against Seattle were actually fairly high, but I still contend to what you're saying. It didn't have the Dalvin feel to it. It didn't feel like we need Alexander Mattison to do this. It really felt like they said, okay, here's our game plan. Kirk's going to run the show, because there is I don't know why. And this is just a feeling. It's been sort of discussed, but Declan, I feel like when Dalvin plays, it's almost the Dalvin offense at times, which I'm not a fan of. A running back, it should not be. That was a great idea when I was 8 or 9 years old, but I'm 51 now. So it should be the quarterback's game. And it felt like in that game against Seattle that it was Kirk's game. And Kirk, and it was Kirk, to your point, distributing screen passes, and Madison played an important role. But when Dalvin plays, it's like this. Dalvin's playing, and now it goes through him, and they've talked about that too. I've seen quotes about that through the years. I appreciate what he brings. I do not think that the offense should ever be in 2021 discussed as it runs through that position. I don't care if it's Walter Payton today, Barry Sanders in 2021, Adrian Peterson, or Dalvin Cook. I much prefer the idea of it's going to have to run through the quarterback.
Yeah, it's not like as much as, look, we have certainly had our criticism of Kirk Cousins, but Kirk Cousins is able to carry a game. Like that's not a hot take. He is able to carry a game.
Against Detroit, he sure is.
especially against the Lions, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're right. If it was a primetime playoff game, then we can question if Kirk can carry the game.
Yes.
But at the same time, this is the Lions, and this is a bad team. If let's say the roles were reversed. Let's say Dalvin Cook played for the Lions, and the Lions offense runs through Dalvin Cook. Because I'm sorry, Jared Goff ain't it. No relation to me, by the way. Thank God. If Dalvin Cook was not
like a little bit, by
I have gotten it numerous times.
It is weird.
Not just because of the last name.
He's
but
got
yes,
good hair.
He has all right hair. Mine's better. But if Dalvin was not able to play for the Lions and you were a Lions fan, you'd be like, oh man, like if Dalvin Cook can't play, we're really, really screwed. I mean, already we're behind the 8 ball as it is, but you could run that Lions offense through Dalvin Cook. But if he couldn't play, you'd be even more worried. So if you're a Lions fan, the roles were reversed and he was wearing a different jersey. This is a different conversation too. But the Vikings have, and I'll play the hindsight game here, are still a positive point differential team. They've lost close games on a weird reverse call and a missed field goal. There's an obvious case that they could be undefeated right now, or it could be at least 3-1 right now. And there's no point to be rushing this running back in. This isn't also. It's not 2008. It's not.
That's it.
The Tavares Jackson offense when AP couldn't play, and I know Chester Taylor was a good spellback, but this isn't that offense anymore, and this isn't where the game is. So if Dalvin Cook can't play, Kirk Cousins can carry that load. There's too many playmakers on offense for it to not be effective, and that's where you saw the recipe in Seattle. That was your blueprint. And are we maybe blinded by how effective that game plan went? Maybe to a little bit. But that's how that offense should still run. You just plug in Alexander Mattison, still hand the ball off 25 times, get him involved in screen games, and then let Kirk do his thing. I don't think that's hard.
No, it's not. And here's the most important thing too. So if you can't beat Detroit with or without Cook, pardon my French, you're screwed. Like you're just screwed. Coming out of the bye, so post Carolina.
Oof.
All right. Let me give you 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me give you the first 5 games out of the bye. Versus Dallas, at Baltimore, at the Chargers, versus Green Bay, at San Fran. If Dalvin Cook twists his ankle, and you don't tell me you can't make an ankle worse, that's BS. Of course you can, because you can keep re-aggravating it. If Dalvin Cook does something against the Detroit Lions, and now he can't play against Carolina, but now it's longer, like he's done more damage. I just gave you 5 games that if you don't have Cook, you're in a lot more trouble than if you sit him against Detroit. So yeah, I was at the Wild game last night thinking about this, and I'm like, why is Dalvin Cook talking about playing? And I know why. He's got to say he's going to, but the more I thought about it, it makes no sense.